I welcome all of you in this class. Since we are having one of the paper which is international trade and finance. The topic of today's class is disadvantages of international trade. Since in last to last class I have explained advantages of the international trade. Today is disadvantages of international trade. Topic is clear cut. There are many disadvantages, but some disadvantages I will explain here. First is impediment in the development of home industries. Remember, if you will have the open economy, then there is free flow of commodities and services if we allowed. Then we'll have competitions within the commodity. The commodity will survive, which will have lower prices given the same quality and all. So in this kind of competition war, foreign big companies, they are having huge productions. Their average cost, marginal cost is relatively low, hence they are charging low prices. And that situation, we will lose the competition, so hence massive flow of the commodity to the domestic industry. So hence it is not giving opportunities to the domestic industry to survive. We are having infant industry which will not fight with the foreign goods. So this is quite hurdle for the domestic industries. So hence the first is there is no infant industry productions, then will not have kind of domestic industries which is not able to fight with the foreign countries. Second disadvantage is economic dependence. Remember, if we are not self-reliant, we are not Atmanirbhar, then for all commodities we shall be dependent to the rest of the world. And hence all kind of the commodity will be imported from the rest of the world. In that case, in kind of negative situations in the domestic economy, maybe the situations, then the world will control or ban export to the Indian market, and that situation we could have problem. Hence, the massive economic dependence to the rest of the world will have negative impact on the domestic economy. So remember, at least the essential goods, the merit goods should be produced in the domestic economy, at whatever the cost. We must not depend the foreign industries, the rest of the world for all kind of commodities. That will have negative impact on the domestic economy. Similarly, the political dependence. Third point is political dependence. Remember, when our import depend on the rest of the world, then they will have the political intervention to the domestic economy. Rest of the world will change the political phenomena, political situations to the domestic economy, which is bad for the democracy. For vibrant and massive democracy, we should have political autonomous and political independent to the rest of the world. World would not be allowed to intervene to the internal democracy. So hence political dependence should not be allowed at all. So hence, in these situations, the international trade can be negative for the domestic economy. Similarly, come here for the fourth point, misutilizations of natural resource. Remember, the foreign countries, the MNCs and big firms, they only use the domestic resource. Since it is cold, India is the rich country, but poor people living there means we are having rich natural resources. Lot of natural resources we are having. This should have the ideal utilizations of the resource. Sustainable development must be maintained so that the future generations can realize the benefit of economic development. But in case of the international trade, MNCs and foreign firms will utilize these natural resources at low cost and they sell their commodity at higher prices. In that situations, this kind of trade will have negative impact on the domestic economy. So hence, we should be serious about it. We should have check and balance. We should have poor situations for all kind of import. The next point is import of harmful goods. Remember, we are not much serious when we'll have international trade. All kind of commodities will flow to the domestic economy, which will not consider what kind of commodity which are importing. This may be the bad commodities, which may be the negative commodity, which ultimately reduce the utility, which ultimately reduces the social welfare of the common man. Many examples are there: spurious drugs, luxury articles. Similarly, various examples are there which will have negative effect to the domestic economy. Common man's utility will fall. So we should be serious when we import this kind of harmful goods. So in case of international trade, it's not good. Next, sixth point of disadvantages of international trade is the storage of goods. In recent years, it has been seen the essential commodities are stored by MNCs, big firms through this international trade and all. So in that situations, in domestic economy, we'll have a shortfall of commodities. Inflations take place, prices rises. The common man, in poor country like India, where 80% people are income very low, so hence they are facing serious consequences. In that case, international status becomes negative fact, falling negative effect to the domestic economy. So storage of the goods is happening through this international trade and all. Similarly, the seventh point is danger to the international peace. The international trade gives an opportunity to foreign agents to settle down in countries which ultimately endanger its international peace. So, through this international trade, having negative effect through this situation, so we should be serious about it. 8th point, World War. International trade breeds rivalrousness among the nations due to competitions in the foreign market. This may eventually lead to wars and disturb world and peace. Similarly, we can see now in present scenario, China and US's fight is going on. This is basically the economic fight, which is fight coming up from the international trade, which ultimately will have the political fight. So hence we should be serious about it. Trade ultimately leads to the international war, world war. Similarly, the last ninth point, but not least, hardship in the times of war. International trade promotes the lopsided development of the countries. Only those goods which have comparative cost advantages are produced in the country during the war. When goods relations do not prevail between nations, hardship may follow. The point is clear cut. In kind of negative situations, in kind of bad situation, in kind of war, natural calamities and all, we needed some kind of essential goods. When we depends for that goods to the rest of the world, if world is not allowed, then the domestic economy we have negative serious consequences. So we should be serious about We think about it to have international trade, but at least the essential goods should be produced in the domestic market, domestic economy. Domestic industry would prevail. Domestic industry must be protected from the rest of the world to produce essential and merit goods. So, all these are negative points I have discussed. Thank you very much for your joining.